Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of the Golden Years Retirement Community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Ike Eisenmann and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenmann. And today we are thrilled to welcome the owner of the famed LA clothing store, Armani Wells, as well as one of the stars of my all-time favorite film, Back to the Future. Please help us welcome Claudia Wells. Claudia, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Tell me if I make anyone dizzy because my swinging.
No, I don't think so. I'm not worried about it.
My phone still, but I'm swinging.
It's
No, it looks great.
It's calming me down. Yeah, it's
Oh,
calming me down. Yeah.
Well, we've been very excited to have you come on, but let's start at the beginning. You were born in Malaysia. What was your family doing in Malaysia?
My parents lived there for 2.5 years, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, or as my dad put it, the Malayan Islands. He's a parasitologist, a researcher of tropical diseases, and head of the epidemiology department of UC Berkeley and UCSF. And he was sent there because there was some sort of a parasite that was going in through the bottom of the feet of the tribes people in water, and it was killing them off. And he was there to figure it out. And he figured out that there was a particular type of snail. Aren't you glad you asked me this?
Yeah.
This is fascinating. I'm sorry. Yes, we are.
There's a type of a snail that exudes some sort of a something that kills the parasite that was going up through the feet of the tribes people and killing them. So my dad took a bunch of those particular snails and put it in the water and saved the whole day because he's Harrison Ford of the epidemiology world.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And I'm his
And what made them decide to move back to the States when they did?
My mom had me, and as soon as I was old enough to travel, which was like if you ask my mom, it was 6 weeks. If you ask my dad, it was 6 months. So we're not quite sure. And they went back to San Francisco where they had lived prior to that. I mean, they lived in Cairo.
Oh, wow.
That's where my brother was born. So my dad was he's literally like one of the greatest parasitologists on the planet.
Incredible.
Googled him. And in 1972, because he's too modest to tell me this stuff, he was head of epidemiology for the World Health Organization.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Right?
You had a lot to live up to. Well, jumping ahead to your career, like right away, did you grow up wanting to act, or how did that come about for you?
I was born wanting to act. I knew since that I wanted to act. And my dad told me I'm the only actress in my entire bloodline. There's artists and singers and professors and all that good stuff, but I'm literally the only actress, and I'm a 4th generation San Franciscan. So it's a long time, but
wow.
Yeah. So I'm sure you were probably the same. I mean, when I used to watch Sesame Street and the Electric Company, I knew I wanted to be inside that little box. I wanted so small that they could fit. And so I used to cry to my mom that I'll never be able to be in that box because I'll never be small enough. I mean, that's how long I've known I wanted to be an actress.
Okay, that's very interesting because I see very quickly, because this is about you, not me, but I grew up with the idea of television because my father had his own live children's television show in Houston, Texas. So I grew up with my father being in the box all day and then coming home after he was in the box. And those weird ideas were in my head also, but I had opportunities to go to the studio and see him do the show and appear on the show when I was extremely young. So I demystified all that pretty much right away. But I think that is such a fascinating thing to think about. Yeah, never small. I was always small enough to be in the box. So there you go. Yeah, it was straight across transition for me. But your first role, oh, sorry.
But interesting, because I used the words I wanted to be an actress. It wasn't that I wanted to be an actress. It's that I knew I was an actress and I was going to be an actress. There was no want about it. It was a knowledge and a know-how and a knowing. I mean, the fact that the option of it not happening was like not an option to me at 3.
Well, how old were you and what were the steps you took to enter the business?
Okay, so when I was 6, I invented something, because there was that show with the 3 people behind the table, and they were each there because they invented something. I guess it was the 1970s Shark Tank. And so I literally invented something, and I told my mom, now I can be on TV, mommy, because I told her what I invented, which, by the way, was very, very, very cool and still has been invented.
Okay.
Those are reruns. So that didn't work. And then my sister she auditioned to be in an opera in San Francisco at the Grand Opera House. And she got the part of the daughter in Werther. And I used to go to her rehearsals, and I said to everyone, I want to do what she's doing. And I figured, I don't care what it takes to be on that stage. If I have to sing, I'll sing. Whatever I have to do. So they actually asked me to be in the opera that spring. I was 8 years old, in L'Amico Fritz. And I ended up being in 10 operas between the age of 8 and 12 at the San Francisco Grand Opera and at the Current. I sang, I yelled, I was a bear in one of them. I worked with Luciano Pavarotti and Placido Domingo, and the greats, the absolute greats, were like family friends coming over for pasta. And my mom got me an appointment with Ann Brebner, the San Francisco agent. And I got my first commercial I auditioned for, which was a national Honda commercial, and it won a Clio, which I had no idea what that even meant. And then I was also with a modeling agency called Gourmet. So I used to be the girl, like in the newspaper ads, J.C. Penney catalogs. I still have some paper clippings. I was like in it all the time. And this agent took my mom and I to Los Angeles to meet on generals with different casting directors. And one of them was Tony Howard, who was casting Family, the show with Seda and Chrissy McNichol and James Broderick and Quinn Cummins. And she liked me, and a few months later called to see if I would fly to Los Angeles to audition for a part on the show. So my mom and I flew there, and I did the audition, and I love cold readings. I did a cold reading, and she came out and she said, it was Lynn Stallmaster, you know the, huge. And there was like 25 or 30 little perfect girls waiting to audition with their moms. I mean, they were like pros, children pros. And she came out and she goes, Barbara, Claudia did a very good audition. She's got the part, but I still have all those girls to audition. So you go in the other room and I'll talk to you in an hour.
Well, that's an amazing way to get started. And it was such a hugely popular show. What was it like to have your first appearance be on something that, so many people watched every week?
I was just excited to be able to look at Chrissy McNichol across the room. I mean, I was like, oh my, because I thought she was one of the greatest actresses on the planet. And I remember Bad News Bears and the whole thing. I didn't know much about the TV show. And I mean, for me, it was just really fun. And when on purpose, I used to go to school wearing the same outfit that I was on TV on the night before, in case anyone might notice.
Oh my gosh.
I don't
know. You were eating up the scenery from day one then.
Oh, yeah. And then they called another episode and we flew there. And I used all of that as my excuse to talk my mother into moving to Los Angeles in between elementary school and high school.
Wow.
And people on set were like, Barbara, she's got to be here. And my mom used to say, oh, flying from San Francisco is just like as if we were driving from the valley. And they were like, no, Barbara, it's not. It's actually quite different. And I talked my mom into moving here. And after the 8th grade, I had gotten into the hardest college prep high school in San Francisco, but I still convinced my mom, let's move to LA. And knowing nobody, we did.
Wow.
In June of 1980.
Wow. That's
Did
amazing.
did you hang out with Christy McNichol at all? Did you get to know her at all?
No, but I hung out with Quinn Cummins. In fact, she and her mom were the only people we actually had their phone number and knew. So I used to hang out with her. They were our only like LA friends ever. Then my mom and I used to go to the Polo Lounge for lunch all the time. And my mom used to say, well, you know, Claudia, it's just as if we were going to the grocery store. It's the same amount of money. And it was like $28 for us to have whatever we wanted at the Polo Lounge for lunch. And then we stayed at my best friend, Leona Mitchell, who was a diva opera singer. We stayed at her then boyfriend, future husband, his apartment in Westwood. And we found an apartment in Beverly Hills so I could go to high school free. And we interviewed agents all summer because we thought that we choose what agent we want to represent us or me. And so we would walk into these adult acting agencies and I would sit there and interview the agents and see if I wanted them to be my agent. And no one different. So each one of them wanted me and would take us to dinner and different things. My mom said, this is called whining and dining right now. And it never occurred to me that everyone doesn't experience that. And we chose SCE, which was an adult agency. They represented Lauren Bacall. And I got a pilot within a year.
Wow.
In fact, Strike Force was that was my first guest star role, big role in an episodic. And Strike Force is where I last saw Ike because he played my brother, my little brother, even though you were like a zillion years older than me at the time, because I was just, I think, 14, you were like 16. Yeah. And his character, it was the Robert Stack show. And the same thing happened where there was a ton of perfect girls auditioning. And I went in and had the crying scene, holding the gun. And and then the casting director picked me up because they said, well, do you think Robert's going to be able to carry her? And he said, well, I don't know, let's try. And he picked me up and he's like, I think, yeah, I think you could. And they're like, okay, thanks, good audition. And I left and I got the part. And I played my older brother who was a drug dealer of acid. And he took little that had acid in them and he took some and then he went on a freeway overpass and he thought he was going to fly and he jumped off. Do you remember?
I swear I barely remember doing that show, and you're bringing it all back to me. Thankfully, I appreciate it so much, but it's like with as many things I've done that I remember in great detail, I don't remember that one. And then when I heard from, because Patrick Laberto connected us, to have you, be a part of our show. And all of a sudden he tells me on the phone, well, yeah, Claudia just ran down the fact that you guys work together on Strike Force and blah, 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 blah. And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't remember. I barely remember that. But yeah, it was a crazy episode.
Well, I'll tell you why I remember. I remember because all I heard was, Ike Eisenmann's in it. He's this really, really superb actor. He works all the time. Oh, you're so lucky you get to work with Ike Eisenmann. And I was like, yeah. And you were like this grown-up actor. And of course you were brilliant. And I had to call my pediatrician in San Francisco to find out what happens when someone does drugs, because I had never done drugs. So I needed to know, like the mannerisms and physicality. And Strike Force was with Dorian Harewood, Robert Stack, and that really nice lady. We became friends with them. And that was one of my 3 or 4 favorite parts I've ever had.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome.
And you should know, I don't know if you're an actor or not, but when we were doing guest starring roles, a guest starring role meant you're in 45 minutes of the show. It
Yeah.
didn't mean you line. Like nowadays, guest starring is if you have more than 2 words, I guess. But when we acted, if you've got a guest starring role, you're like in almost every scene, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. I don't even remember how they credited, you know, the I don't want to say lesser performers. The performers were smaller parts. So the characters were smaller parts back then. But yeah, guest starring role. That was like you were with the leads, you know,
Right.
pretty much the entire time. So
And the other
definitely,
people featured.
yeah. There you go. There you go. Well, you had like we all did several like near casting misses and high profile movies like Gremlins and Goonies and Young Sherlock Holmes. Were you aware at the time that you were one of the finalists as far as those parts were concerned?
I was. And also Adventures in Babysitting was down to Elizabeth Shue
Oh,
and
wow.
me and Phoebe Cates
Oh,
and Valerie Landsberg. No, Valerie Bertinelli,
oh
Eddie Van.
Wow.
And was looking at something yesterday. A friend of mine texted me that he has 100,000 followers, kids from the 80s, and he was doing a Zoom on his like collection, and there was a VHS of Lost Boys. Another I screen tested for that one. Labyrinth was down to me and Jennifer Connelly.
Oh my. Wow.
Yeah, and the new, the most recent, what do you call it? 4 Blu-ray, 4. You know all those technical things. The most recent Labyrinth that came out, an anniversary.
The 4K.
That's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
It says lost auditions. My audition scene's on it because they
Oh,
got
wow.
the manager to ask permission.
Oh,
That's
that's-
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I could. I did an appearance a couple weeks, I guess 2 weeks ago on the East Coast, and just for fun with one of the fans, she was like, "I love 80s movies." I said, "Let me make you a list of every movie you get, and go see those because they're probably some of the best movies of the 80s." And it was like a full page list of movies I had screen tested for. Flight of the Navigator was down to me and Sarah Parker.
Well, when you get so close, are you able to like go and watch them afterwards, or you're like too like, no, I don't want to see this?
Nah. I skip them. I totally skip them. And then it's interesting because when I don't get a part, I used to take it so hard,
Mhm.
and then regret that I had taken it so hard because a couple weeks later I'd get something else. And I think, why'd you put yourself through such agony and not just trust? And literally, if I had gotten Gremlins or Goonies or Young Sherlock Holmes, then probably wouldn't have gotten Back to the Future
Mhm.
because it was all the same company. And if given my options today of any 80s film,
Yeah.
I said to Goldie the other day, you know, Don Full of Love, I call him Goldie. He
Mhm.
played Mason Wilson. I said, we got the golden ticket.
Mhm.
We
Absolutely.
literally struck lightning with being able to be in that movie.
For sure. Absolutely. And Don Full is an old friend of mine. So next time you
Oh,
talk to him, say hi. Yes, we used to work in ADR together for many years. Yeah.
Is
I
that what
was-
a yacht and then a couple airplanes and beautiful corner house?
I was actually going to reach out to him for to come on me at one point. So,
Oh, I was texting with him an hour ago.
oh wow. Like,
That's
well, you were offered the part in Back to the Future before having to like not take it. I mean, can you just also walk us through the audition process for that?
Well, it's interesting. I only had one audition.
Mhm.
And when I walked into Amblin, it was Steven Spielberg, Fenton Feinberg. It was all of the casting people, Bob Zemeckis, Bob Gale, Neil Canton, Kathy, the 2 kings of Amblin, Kathleen Kennedy,
Mhm.
and the guy. So there's like 14 people in there and a cameraman. And a guy auditioning for Marty on his 11th callback. 11th callback.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? And my first, not even callback, my first audition. And in fact, the scene I did was was in the car, the Leah Thompson Marty scene where she's drinking and smoking. That was my audition scene. And I rehearsed with Patrick, and his mom, Frankie, was my acting teacher. So Patrick Laborto was my Marty I practiced the scene with before my audition for Steven Spielberg.
Wow.
How's that for a synchronistic small world?
Good
I
grief.
That he must. So we did the scene a bunch of times, and then Steven kicked out the cameraman because he said, I can't have a camera filming without me behind it. And the guy was like, really? I'm really, you're telling me to leave? And he goes, yeah, there's the door. And he kicked him out, and then he went behind the camera. And most of the audition was Steven Spielberg asking me questions. And every answer I gave him was after I said, you have to promise me you're not telling my mom. You have to promise. And then I'd look at everyone, you have to promise. And they all promised. And then I'd answer whatever the question was. And then at the end, Steven goes, oh no, the camera's been rolling this whole time. What are we going to do? I said, don't show it to anybody. Now, love to see it. But so I was in there probably a couple hours. It was super fun. The guy never really said much of anything except for his lines. He was never asked any questions. And he actually ended up playing the drummer in of the Pinheads, the band scene. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I got the part. I found out a couple weeks later. And then a pilot I had done with Ed Asner and Eileen Brennan. And actually, before he was a superstar, Dennis Haysbert, the previous spring got picked up to be a mid-season replacement. And it was a 3-camera show in front of a live audience, which was always fun. And it was set to be at the same time as Jennifer Parker in Back to the Future. Same filming dates as series dates. And Steven Spielberg was trying to get ABC to share me, and the producers wouldn't do it. They were my first contract, and they weren't going to release me, and they weren't going to share me. And Ed Asner would be there, and he'd go, guys, let her do a Spielberg movie. What do you want her to eat bagels all day? Because it's thank when you're a 3-camera. You rehearse, hang out, you leave at 3, and then one night you work till midnight on Fridays. So I had to be released. And my mom came into the living room one day and she goes, okay, it's official. You've been released. So now we're okay with this series and we're not in trouble anymore. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I never really had a bad feeling about it at all. It was an interesting thing. Then my major competitor, Melora Hardin, got my part, which was almost funny because so many parts got down to her and me. We would literally take turns. All right, you got the last one. This one's my turn. Oh, I got this, her turn next time. I mean, always. So she got it. And then I finished my 6 shows. They released or let go of Eric. And that was a big secret for like 25 years. And then they hired Michael, who was their original first choice. And Melora's 5'7", and I'm 5'3.5". And Michael's 5'4". And they were asking the women on set, do you think it's okay to have Marty's girlfriend so tall? And they didn't think so. And so unfortunately, Melora was like going, I was hired.
Well, when they called you again to tell you that, if you'd like the part again, how surprised were you at that time? Just, because they had already started filming.
What's interesting? I find it fast. I was not at all surprised. And I realized that when my mother walked into the living room and said, you're released, and I was sitting on that couch feeling so peaceful about it all, it's almost like some premonition in me knew it was all going to work out no matter what anyway. I got it and I was so excited, but I wasn't surprised. It wasn't like a shocker. It was like okay, this is making sense.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it is of course one of the, I don't know, most amazing Hollywood stories for me, having learned about the origin and Eric Stoltz starting in the role and all of that. And you had known Eric Stoltz, though. Had you heard anything about things not working out during the original shooting? Because I still think it's
No,
an incredible story.
no. I took acting class with Eric when he first came to LA from Santa Barbara, and he had long red hair. And we were in Stella Adler's master class at
Mm.
what became Post Playhouse on Santa Monica, and which Gregory Harrison opened, which is funny because I guest starred on his show too. But that's another story. They had Eric and I meet up at one of the Hollywood parties so that we could sort of form a deeper friendship. And he used to call me and ask my mom to put Jennifer on the phone. And my mom would be, Jennifer lives in San Francisco. My sister's name is Jennifer.
Oh, okay.
I'm at Jennifer's house right now.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that I got to meet Jennifer, and he and I did pictures at the back lot, which I still have, that were supposed to be in Marty's wallet.
Huh.
And I haven't seen him since, but he's one of the most brilliant actors on the planet for sure. And he's thrived since then in such a elegant way. I mean, that's a rough experience.
Sure.
Oh, 100%. I mean, 100%.
Well, how did you coming in late to the party? I mean, how did the rest of the cast treat you? Coming in so late to everything. Were you all
They had never
accepted?
done anything with Jennifer Parker yet, so it was normal. It was just like coming in and doing a role. I was not like the second anything. They had never shot a single second with Jennifer until I.
Wow. And so how intense was it? So, but they had shot with Eric. So Michael J. Fox came in late. How intense was the shooting to try to play catch up with everything?
For them, it was intense, but when I came on, it wasn't. It was just normal. And for me, it was astounding how slow the process was. I was used to 10 pages a day in television. They do like half a page a day, all day in film.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, gosh, what should I be doing right now? I mean, am I supposed to be like reading a book? Am I supposed to be exercising? Like, what am I supposed to be doing other than wait? It was really an interesting experience because I really was so accustomed to one take wells and, getting a
I had the same reputation.
Don't you love that? Like a thing.
Yeah. I actually got oh, good God, this is a digression, but I got a part on Fantasy Island when I was 17. When I was 17, and they wanted to hire an 18-year-old because of the school and the the longer working hours. And I ended up promising them that I would do all my scenes, all my shots in one take, so I wouldn't waste their time. And the producers actually took me up on it, and I did exactly that, so I could do the part. But it's so like I loved having that reputation. It was really fun.
Me too. I love that. I totally love that.
Michael J. Fox was already huge at the time because of Family Ties. What was it like, working with him on the film?
Fun. He was darling. He was just really. You want to hear something funny?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Oops. Drop the phone. My little brother, can you still see me? There I am.
Yeah.
My little brother in the series Off the Rack, his nickname was Bumper. His sister played Michael J. Fox's little sister in Family Ties.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
What are the chances of that? Literally, a series both being filmed at the same time.
Wow.
And my little brother's sister is Michael's little sister. What is the chance of that? Anyway, it was fun. Michael was fabulous. I thought he was a cutie patootie. And I was playing myself. So it went pretty well.
How about some of the others in the cast? Can you mention, just give them a little, like Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Thomas Wilson?
I never met Leah until 15 years ago. I didn't meet Goldie until the 20th anniversary party of the movie, right? And Chris, I can't even believe it. I forgot that he was my favorite role. I didn't catch that he was my favorite role on Taxi till like 20 years later.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, because I didn't know him by name, Christopher Lloyd. And I only saw him in makeup. So like how he looks now is younger than how he looked every day on set that I saw him. So when I first saw him without makeup, I was like, wow, you're young.
Mm.
And he was very shy and he was very quiet. We sat next to each other in the garage in like little chairs, and he's such a cool guy. He doesn't say anything unless he wants to. There's no such thing as talking for talking's sake with Chris at all. So when he talks, it's like H&R Block. You want to listen because it's so cool. It's like an honor because he doesn't say anything unless he feels like it.
Mm.
He's really cool. He's really cool. And he's incredibly smart and as down to earth as we are. I mean, he's just a genius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've met him a couple times, and I found that same thing. Even the brief period of time I spent with him was the same kind of experience. And
right.
Truly, I'm a huge fan of his. Huge fan.
I'm a huge fan.
Huger. There you go. Well, I won't throw smackdown with you over that.
Well, I just want to ask about the Wendy Jo Sperber, the late
Wendy. I love Wendy. I knew Wendy after, again, years later, because she had concern, the cancer. What was it called? It still runs the cancer charity. I can't remember what her charity was called that she started to help people with cancer. It was similarly to what Gilda Radner started, which my mom and I were a part of when my mom had cancer. And I used to go to her benefits, her charity benefits, and she was just fabulous. And her spot was and is, I guess it's still there, a couple miles from my store. So we were also neighbors. Mm-hmm. And gosh, I met her mom. She was great. She was just great. It's hard, it's hard to believe when people aren't alive anymore.
Yeah.
I was just thinking today, I have 2 exes that aren't alive anymore. And it's like, it's just so strange. It's like, I mean, I don't even ever take anyone out. Her number is probably still in my phone. Because I just
great actress, joke.
Yeah, no, for sure.
What'd you say? Oh, great. Oh my God, bosom buddies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God, for sure.
And she was just so nice.
Yeah, I loved her. I loved her too. So there are so many great stories of Gail and Zemeckis getting frustrated with Crispin Glover's choices. Did you see any of that going on? Or
I'll tell you, I went to high school with Crispin Glover.
Oh.
And drama department together. He was best friends with Nicholas Coppola, Nicolas Cage. And Crispin was sort of like a very interesting, kind of nervous, kind of unusual guy. Mm-hmm. So Bob Gale says that the hardest part of filming was making him, Mr. Joe Cool. Crispin is a brilliant actor. I never did a play with him, but we were in, like, I was a drama groupie, he was a drama groupie. In fact, I was in line. You know how you stand in line sometimes for the wristband for parties, like at what's his name's house, the Hugh Hefner's house. You have to stand in line, and then you get your wristband, and then you get in bus to go.
I never got invited, so I can't say that I have any recollection of that. But thanks for
well, it's one of my
making me feel great.
I was standing in line to get my wristband, and I hear this voice behind me, and I'm like, Crispin? And I turn around and it was him. And I go, Crispin, it's Claudia Wells from drama department, Beverly Hills High School. He's like, Claudia. I said, oh, and we were in the movie together. That was definitely my second thought, but I don't know. I don't have any personal experience of filming with him. I just know that he's a genius actor. I mean, my gosh, how great was he in that scene where he's watching television and he goes, ha, ha, ha. That laugh he does when Joey's in the crib.
No, he's one of the most unique actors we have out there, period. I mean, I remember the first time I saw him in anything was I don't know if it was his first thing or not, but At Close Range with Sean Penn and Christopher Walken, and he hardly said anything in the film, and he was the most interesting actor to watch. That's just how he was from day one. So
fascinating.
Yeah.
And actually, he worked with Bob Zemeckis again. Wasn't Bob the producer of that Hot Tub
Time Machine?
Yeah.
He was great in that. I don't know if he was the producer. I have to look that up, but he was great in that. I was thinking of that.
I'm pretty sure he's done a movie with Bob since Back to the Future. Bob Zemeckis, not Gale.
Right.
I love Bob Gale. I'm his biggest fan on the whole planet. I really am.
Well, I've heard you say that no one knew it would become the phenomenon that it did. But what was the environment like on set? Did you feel like it was at least, like a special movie?
Yes, it was a perfectly specifically done movie. And I remember, I might have the numbers wrong. Maybe he said 3 million, but I thought I heard 300,000, where Michael said, okay, if the movie makes, maybe he said 3 million. I thought it was 300,000. If the movie makes 300,000, I get that truck, the 4x4. Because back then, 300,000 was a whole lot of money. He might have said 3 million. It wasn't more than that. And so I was just enraptured with the idea of being in a Steven Spielberg movie and terrified at the same time that my thighs were going to be 20 feet tall. This is, gotta be skinny. And I was also used to television. So I figured, because I was always so hard on myself, so I figured if I did a bad job on television, worst case scenario, it's over in an hour. And then I thought, if I do a bad job in this, it's on noon, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, all over the country. I didn't even think about all over the world. So if I was bad, I'd be bad all day long.
Well, what was Zemeckis like as a director?
That my brain goes when I was.
Yeah, gotcha.
How about Zemeckis? What was he like as a director?
Very specific,
Awesome.
very detailed. Like that scene where Marty and I are walking and then the Goldie van goes by in the clock tower scene area. I mean, he had the aerobics people dancing perfectly, and this thing happening, and this thing happening, and this thing happening, all exactly how he wanted it. He was he just knew. He just knew. He was just very, very specific. And not in terms of how to play a part, but in terms of where you're looking. Like, look at the clock, look at the lady, look at each other, look at the lady. And if you notice in the movie, there's a lot of times where Michael and Chris are like, they do these looks, or he and I do these looks. All of that was directed.
Yeah, it feels very choreographed that way. I mean, now that you mentioned that, I'm thinking about it and thinking, I kind of noticed that there was a style to all the reactions that is interesting to hear that's right out of Zemeckis. That's fascinating. Well, how much involvement did Spielberg have during the course of shooting?
I saw him once. Goldie saw him at his audition. Yeah, that was it.
Okay. And the movie ends famously with like Jennifer and Marty getting to the DeLorean and heading to the future. Was there any thought of a sequel at that point, or just that was a total throwaway joke?
Well, my mom went there's gonna be a sequel. You know who was my date for the premiere? Ike. Where'd he go?
I'm right. Oh, am I gone?
Yeah, we don't see you.
Oh,
Wait.
yeah, I'm still
Oh,
here.
there you are.
Yes.
Okay, guess who my if I now I can see you at the same time. I'm so technical.
I thought you were telling me I was your date and I
No,
didn't
no, no.
remember.
I
That's even
was
worse.
wondering.
Yeah.
Who was my date to the premiere? July 3rd, 1985 at the Avco Theater in Westwood. Patrick Laberto.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And he said to me after, he's like, Claudia, did you have to squeeze my hand that tight? You've got very I'm so scared. I forgot the question. What was the question?
No, did you have any idea that it was going to be a
Oh,
sequel? Just like, go with-
no. No, but then you know what I found recently in my mom, God bless her soul, she saved everything. I found a letter, a typewritten letter from Bob Gale saying, I hope you enjoy these pictures, but keep them because we might need them for the sequel.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Was
okay.
I think those were pictures of me, because I still have them, that were originally meant to be in Marty's wallet, which were my school pictures.
Mhm.
And there's like one, it's just like school pictures. So there's one and then that perforated line and 3 smaller ones. And I've got like 8 of them. So I might sell those for $75,000, like Mr. Tom Wilson did with his VHS set.
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
Why?
Yeah. So the movie comes out and it starts doing phenomenally. Did you and everyone else start to think this is going to change everything for you guys?
No, I didn't, because I was used to getting people walking up, even when I was in high school and I'd be at lunch with a friend, people would come up to me and ask for my autographs. So that was kind of already something I was accustomed to. Or I'd be walking and all of a sudden, you know, that photographer, I can't remember his name, he was everywhere. He'd show up and then these other photographers, Claudia, Miss Wells, and they'd take pictures of me. So I was already accustomed to that kind of thing from being in so much television. My favorite part about the movie coming out is I used to call the movie theaters in Westwood and I'd say to my girlfriends, they'd be like, watch this. And I'd say, this is Claudia Wells. I'm in Back to the Future that's playing at the Avco. And my girlfriends and I would like to come see your movie, but could we come in the back way, please? And we'd get in for free.
Oh, you are too much. You're too much. That's fantastic. I would have never thought of doing anything like that.
Wow. Oh no, that was my idea of we've hit the big time, ladies and
There
gentlemen.
you go. Exactly.
Started in a TV series relatively quickly after that called Fast Times, from the movie Fast Times Ridgemont High, playing Phoebe Cates' part, Linda Barrett.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're on set, the whole wide world doesn't exist. Nothing exists except for where you are and what you're doing. Like the whole world is closed off. So I kind of missed, my mom cut out newspaper clippings. I've still got them. Sorry. Voicemail. I'm on my iPhone. She saved all the newspaper clippings of how much money it was making. And I even have the newspaper clipping of June 17th, sneak preview of Back to the Future that premieres on July 3rd. So another $75,000, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Anyway, no, I had no clue. In fact, I really didn't get it until about 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
When I started the appearances and saw the response. The only thing that kind of gave me a really big hint was I was in Banff once and I had goggles on and my skis and my ski jacket, and someone was standing like 10 feet away and they go, oh, Jennifer Parker. And I'm like, how the heck did you know that? Of course I knew that. Or I'd be at my store and people would walk in and go, I know those eyes. Parker. And I'd be like, who told you? I was sure that like someone had said, by the way, that's Jen. But they're like, no, I just recognize you. And I'm like, wow, you're amazing. It's only, you know, now I see the extraordinary, amazing, abundant love for everything Back to the Future worldwide. And it's generational. There is not a missing generation. It's grandparents, parents, kids, toddlers. And they have this, it's the same kind of enraptured love for the film. And they say, oh, it's a perfect movie. I saw it on my first date. Now we're married. I took my son to see it the day I told him that I was going to divorce his mom so that he could have a good experience. I mean, everyone has like some sort of a story about when they saw Back to the Future. I met a woman who's a rocket scientist because she was so enthralled with Christopher Lloyd's character. I got a letter from someone who thanked me for his life because he was going to commit suicide. He had such a horrible family experience, and he decided to try watching the movie. And he played it every night, and he said we were his family. And he sent me a handwritten 9-page letter. I was just telling Goldie the other day when he was like 23, and I sent it to Bob Gale. People have tattooed my handwriting on their chest, their neck, the arm, not just boys, but a girl too. It's just, it's a universal family of love and kindness and sincerity and loyalty and friendship. It really is. I feel like I read every single comment that people write on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, mostly Facebook and Instagram. I literally read every single one, and I'll just sit there smiling. And if someone's mean, they get deleted.
You're very active on there. I follow you on Facebook as well.
You do?
Yes.
But it's very few mean people. It's like maybe one every now and again. And I'm like, report, block, delete.
Well, just to veer off Back to the Future for a moment, you were the same year that the movie came out. You were in the anti-drug video, Stop the Madness.
Yes, no one talks about that.
Put together by the Reagan administration. It had David Hasselhoff, Whitney Houston, Arnold Schwarzenegger, New Edition. I was watching it this past week, and also among many others. How did you become involved with that?
Okay, I started in Strike Force. And wait, was it Strike Force? No. Simon and Simon. I guest starred on Simon and Simon, and it was a similar drug addict type, nice girl turned drug addict role. And again, one of my very favorite roles I've ever had. And Tim Reed was one of the regulars. He was one of the stars. His wife, Maxine Reed, ended up playing Will Smith's mom in that whole.
We interviewed her, actually. Yes.
She's cool, right? So he was involved in something called Entertainment Industry Council. So it was actually not the Reagans that put this together. It was the Entertainment Industry Council's first video. And I'm still involved with them. And now they also have something called Science Entertainment Technology, and they're extraordinary. And Timothy Reed recommended me because I just got guest starred on his series as a drug addict, or nice girl turned drug addict. And this is a drug addict turned nice girl. And in fact, one of the scenes where I'm in the corner, all in black like this, was filmed in the same church that the Enchantment Under the Sea dance was filmed at. And it was 6 months earlier. And I hadn't even auditioned yet for Back to the Future. How deep is that?
Incredible.
Isn't that amazing? Wow. And it was funny too, because Arnold Schwarzenegger played the garbage man when Boogaloo Shrimp and I threw away my drugs. And I ended up dating his best friend 2 years later. And I met him at this private screening. I'm like, I know you.
Oh, God. Well, so now I'm assuming that you didn't actually get a chance to meet the Reagans during this.
I did.
Oh, you did? Oh, my God.
Yeah. Okay, so Ronald Reagan was busy. He wanted to meet us, but he was occupied. But Nancy Reagan, we went to the White House to film. Wow. And we sang a song, and I stood next to her. She has like a baritone singing voice. And we sang Stop the Madness. And I was wearing this really pretty little white dress. And I was asking like, where's the dressing room? Because I had to change into it. We don't have a dressing room. I said, well, where am I supposed to change clothes? And they said, oh. I went into the formal dining room of the White House, and my mom held up a coat, and I changed my clothes in the corner.
Oh my God.
Is that the best?
Yeah.
And then I became friends with Ronald Reagan's top executive secretary, this really nice man. He's the one who came and said that unfortunately the president won't be able to come meet you, but he sends his regards. I was like, can you show me around? And he said yes. Wow. So he's like held my hand and he's taking me through all these different little offices. And I was like, can I get that pad of paper? Sure you can. And then I said, can you ask the president to send my mom a birthday card? Sure, when's her birthday? And she got a birthday card from Ronald and his wife. And then really strangely, I was driving, years and years and years forward, I'm driving my son to school. And you know when the police do that sweep thing on the freeway to stop traffic?
Yep.
They started doing that sweep thing. And then I started noticing like motorcycle cops blocking every entrance. And I'm like, Sonny, what do you think's going on? Oh, and somehow, some way we ended up the first car and we were listening on the radio. We were the very first car behind Ronald Reagan's body that was being driven to its final resting place at the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley.
Wow.
What are the chances?
Sure.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I've never told anyone but friends that. But anyway, yeah, no, I was at the White House, and then actually years and years later, I was invited to have items put into the Orion space shuttle from Cape Canaveral in 2014 because Entertainment Industry Council, which I was still a part of, was given space in the capsule, and they invited me to put stuff in. And I was like, wow. So I sent them a little DeLorean that I signed, which they ended up not using because they were afraid if the capsule blew up, I'd lose my car. So they didn't put that in. You can't make this stuff up, right?
No, that's fantastic.
So I put a clock tower t-shirt, which by the way, I invented, even though I'm not allowed to sell anymore because it was copycatted, but whatever. And I put a picture of my dad and I put a signed picture of Marty and me. And I was invited to the launch, which I went to with all of the rocket scientists and the guy who shares an office with the Attorney General, or maybe it was the Attorney General. I don't know. These guys with lots and lots and lots of stripes on their uniforms. And it was a 2-day thing because the first day it was scrubbed. And then the second day it actually launched and it landed in Baja, Mexico 24 hours later. And it was a capsule just filled with things. And it was to practice for the capsule. For the shuttle they were building to go to Mars with astronauts, which was supposed to be done a year later. And the next morning I ended up having breakfast with the rocket scientist who was building the engine he built the engine for the Orion capsule. He taught me it's a capsule, not a shuttle. And he was building an engine for the one that was supposed to go to Mars with the astronauts. And I met him because at the end of everything, everyone's leaving and they had this beautiful buffet and there was these big chocolate chip cookies. And I'm like, ooh, I got to take some cookies before I go. And I'm reaching for the cookies and there's this guy across from me. He goes, they're really good, aren't they? I said, I know. Aren't they so good? And he goes, what's your name? And I'm like, what's your name? And he said, I got to show these people around later. So do you want to have breakfast tomorrow? And I said, sure. And it turns out it's him. And then we were text friends. It wasn't a date or anything. It was just friendship. And we were text friends for a long time after that. And he would call me and say, Claudia, I am so sorry I didn't return your text right away. We had just gotten something today and it was a really important part of the engine. And I just had to, test it out and put it in. I'm like, you do realize you don't have to apologize for not returning a text right away when you're like changing the whole world, right? He's like, no, I'm sorry. I thought, wow.
Oh.
It's funny. My stories take bunny trails into Never Never.
That's great.
But every word is fact.
No,
we love it.
You'd mentioned that you were on Fast Times, and we had someone else from that show, Dean Cameron, on.
Oh,
as well.
Dean, he plays Spicoli.
It was such a great thing talking about that. What are some of your memories of that show?
It's interesting because that was the only show I ever did with other people my age. I was used to being the kid with adults, and I was kind of shy when it comes to people my age. I was never shy with adults because I was used to adults. But so I kind of didn't feel like I was in the popular group. Patrick Dempsey, Mr. Dr. McDreamy, was Damone. And Wally Ward, who's now like Wallace Ingham or something, was Damone's sidekick. I can't remember his name. And Stacy was Thorne Smith. I can't think of her first name. She ended up becoming a superstar on Ally McBeal, and she did the series with James Belushi.
Courtney Thorne.
Courtney Thorne Smith. And then Ray Walston and Vincent Schiavelli and Dean, he was too cool. He was so cool that he was like his own entity. But I really felt like, and Amy Heckerling and Neil Israel, it was all the original people writing and directing. And I don't know. And our reality consultant was Moon Unit Zappa.
Oh my gosh.
And ended up playing Barbara. So that's her. If you look at the credits, reality consultant, Moon Unit Zappa. And then they gave her an acting part. But I love acting, and anytime the camera is rolling and I'm my character, it's all good. It's all wonderful. But outside of that, I just I didn't know what to do with myself because I just didn't feel like I was a part of with people my age. Like they were so cool, and then there was me. Even though I was the cool girl.
That's so
I don't know. It was interesting. It was not. It wasn't my most favorite job because I was off camera. Wasn't my most favorite job. On camera, it was super fun.
Yeah.
Truth is truth, right?
Yep. I get it.
You do, right?
Oh yeah, completely. Because I was the same way. I was always the kid on set because being the Disney kid, I didn't work with a lot of other young performers, and that was not my comfort zone. It was always the grown-ups and the adults, 100%. And I didn't do anything. I did some things at that age where I was with other people my age, but same kind of thing.
But not much. Like Herbie the Love Bug, I had two little brothers, or Off the Rack, I had a little brother, but that doesn't count as like Jason Hervey, who became so famous in what's that series with Bryan Cranston? Malcolm in the Middle. He was my little brother in something, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it was.
Huh. So then Fast Times ends, and at what point did you start hearing, talk about Back to the Future sequel?
Oh, way before that.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, way before that. Like 6 months after the movie came out.
Oh, all right. Wow.
Oh, or less than that. Absolutely, yeah. And I was told that it would basically be Marty and Jennifer going through the future and different experiences together.
So you turned down the role. I mean, they contacted you because your mother was sick at the time.
Yeah.
But she still wanted you to take the role?
She did. She totally did. And I just, I wasn't in a place emotionally to do anything acting. I need to be well rested when I'm acting. I need to be, you're using your emotions and your body and your being to become someone else. So if you yourself aren't all right, then how are you supposed to become someone else. And I myself was not all right. I've never worded it that way. That's exactly the truth. You understand, right? I, as an actor,
Oh yeah.
I wasn't in a place to do it at all. So I left it all. I left everything. And I knew in my heart, one day I'd come back to acting, but I'd come back to acting on my own terms and not under the claws of people. So I have, and I will, and I'm not done with my acting. So, I mean, it's all worked out so nicely. I was laughing with someone the other day. I said, I think I'm more famous because I didn't do Back to the Future 2 and 3. And everyone's like, why didn't you do the movie? Da, 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 da. He said, I think you're right.
God. Okay. So that's fascinating. And I totally and completely understand that. It was, clearly a very important and good choice for you at the time. So you didn't take it. I mean, were you able to watch it when it came out, or was it just too difficult?
It's so funny. Goldie says to me all the time, have you seen the movie? Because someone said something about Needles. What's Needles? And he's like, Claudia, Needles was a character who, and I'm like, oh, when? He said, you really got to watch these movies. I saw Back to the Future 2 once in Arizona all by myself. And I was like this in the theater watching. And I'm like, oh, she's wearing my clothes. And Back to the Future 3 I saw once also.
That's exactly it. How difficult is it to see someone else doing your part? I mean,
well, it was interesting because on the one hand, I was like, I know there's clothes. And then I was also, well, this makes sense somehow because I screen tested for Adventures in Babysitting and I was sure I'd get it. And they chose her. So there's got to be something that is considered similar between us. Like Sarah Jessica Parker and I, in the morning, Babies Having Babies was between the two of us, which was Martin Sheen's directorial debut. And in the afternoon, Flight of the Navigator was down to the two of us. And she and I didn't look anything alike. And we made a deal. I made her make a deal. Eye to eye, shake hands. I get one part, you get the other. Promise me. And somehow it worked out exactly as I asked. But yeah, I think I was okay with it. There's some level of trust that I've always had that somehow, some way, everything's always going to work out well. And I didn't even know that's a Bible verse because Romans 8:28 says all things work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to his purposes. It doesn't say most things. It doesn't say only the good things. It doesn't say some things I pick and choose. It says all things work together for good to those called according to who love me are called according to my purposes. And I feel truly that's what my life is and always has been. And because I've had some very low times and some very high times. And had I done Back to the Future 2 and 3, I wouldn't have my store that's over 30 years old in Studio City, which has given me, within the first month, I realized I had a business acumen brain and an ability to negotiate that I never would have had I not done it. And who knows that I wouldn't, I have a son and I don't know, I guess he would have been born maybe, but I think life worked out the way I'm much stronger and much more forthright and clear and comfortable with myself, having had my business for all these years and also having the gratitude of knowing what it is not to have.
Mm-hmm. Well, what prompted the idea for Armani Wells? Tell us a little bit more about the store. I think I've been there. I think I have, and I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, you said Studio City. Is it on Ventura Boulevard?
It is between Coldwater and Laurel Canyon on the south side of the street between Whitson and River.
I know I've been there. I think you had a promotional event once that somehow I got invited to. It's a
Probably.
Lovely space. Lovely
Isn't
space.
It?
Yeah.
It's the
yeah.
greatest
So
on the planet, actually.
yeah.
You say so myself.
Yeah, you may. So where did the idea come from? And yeah.
Okay, so I lived in New York for about 6 months, and when I came back to LA, I didn't want to call my dad unless I had a job, because my dad is not the you just hang out and do life kind of man. You do it by the book. You stand in the back of the line like everybody else, and you don't take a bigger piece of the pie than is yours. That's my dad. And
Mm.
so I thought, oh, I have to have a job. And I walked into this resale shop that I had gone shopping at, and the guy was like, "You should work for me. You're such a good negotiator." And I walked in and I said, "Remember me? You told me you want me to work for you like 6 months ago." "Why, yes, I do." I said, "Okay, so I will." And he actually goes, "Can you start tomorrow?" And I said, "Sure." And he gave me the keys to his store and told me the code, which was 1122. He's so funny. There's the sales book, and just sell clothes. And I was like, I could do that. And thank God for him that I'm so honest, because there's no
Yeah.
inventory list, there's no cameras, and I'd never done it before, ever. So he said, "Well, I go to take the sun and have my lunch, and then I'll come to you afterwards." I was like, "Okay." And so I opened at 9, and I'm looking around at all these great clothes and shoes, and someone walks in and I start dressing them. And I was like, "Oh, I'm good at this." And I turned his money from like 8,000 a month to 14,000 a month my first month there.
Mm.
And then my best girlfriend, Akuswa Busia, used to say, she goes, "Claudia, you can never get fired." And I'm like, "Why?" And she said, "Because you make him too much money." So I'd be sitting at the desk with my feet up, kind of like that. And he'd say, "Move your butt, vacuum." And I say, "No, I don't want to, monsieur." And so he'd vacuum. And, and I'd be like, I don't know why I still call him monsieur to this day. He's French Moroccan, so we used to speak French together, and because I'm fluent. And then I'd say like, "Monsieur, do you want to me to go get you croissant and a cafe?" And he'd be like, "Yes." I'd say, "Okay, so that means I get one too, right?" And then, I mean, we had so much fun together. We would make a sale together, but if I wrote it down, I knew I got the commission because I decided that was the way it was going to be. And I would bring my friends there, like Akuso. I'd bring her there and sell her as much as I could, like at midnight, and then put all the money in the register. It never occurred to me until I had employees that people steal. I was like,
Mm-mm.
whoa.
Wow.
Anyway, after a couple months, he used to walk around the store and go, I wish there was something like this for men." I mean, so elegant, beautifully dressed. And I said, "Well, monsieur, why don't we open a store together?" And he said yes. And then he decided to open one with this Armenian guy, Johnny, who sold suits down the street. I was like, "But monsieur, you said you were going to open it with me," because all of a sudden I'm thinking, now I can have a financial basis to go back to acting. Because I never
Mhm.
wanted to go back to acting until I was financially secure. I didn't ever want to be desperate or too hungry for a part. And I wanted to be able to turn things down like we used to if it wasn't right for one reason or another. And he told me I would need $5,000, and he would provide like the merchandise, not the like stuff like racks and things and knowledge. And so my dad loaned me, which ended up, he didn't let me pay him back, $5,000. And now monsieur decides he's going to work with Johnny down the street. And I'm like, so I pouted. I put a newspaper in front of my face, and Amy Grauman taught me in the 8th grade, you cross your legs, you look down at your toe and you shake it, and then you go like this. And I did that, and I just pouted, and I wouldn't speak to him, and I wouldn't help customers. And I just sat there for like 3 days. I still came to work. "My darling, what's the matter with you? Why are you so sad?" "Monsieur, you lied to me." Okay, we can open the store together. And I was like, "Thanks, monsieur." Okay. And so he found his spot around the corner of his store, and he's an absolute genius. And both of us had terrible credit, mine because everyone else handled my money, and him because it's him. And so I said to the landlord, "You know, you don't want to check our credit because it's bad, but will you give us a chance?" And I was 25.
Mm.
And the guy said yes. He's still my landlord today.
Oh,
Wow.
I still pay my rent on time and give him a big hug every single month. And it's 30 and a half years later.
wow.
So I said to Monsieur, I wanted the store to be a very elegant, like Italian boutique that people didn't even know was resale until you told them. And Monsieur used to like crowded clothes, and I wanted everything dry cleaned. He's like, you hang it up and the wrinkles come out. And I'm like, no, Monsieur, you want it to have it dry clean. No, it's too much money. And so I did everything. And ran it myself, and he ran his women's store. And I used to bug him so much because he'd tell me what to do, and I go, and I wouldn't do it. I would do exactly what I wanted to do that I thought was right. And we had different, business practices. And so finally, around 6 months later, I go, Monsieur, I bug you so much. I'm not doing anything you say. I don't agree with anything you're saying. Why don't I just buy you out? Okay. So we made a deal. I'd pay him $300 a week to make up for his like cash register and things that he provided. He's so funny. And I never kept track. So like 2 years later, I'm still paying him $300 a week. Oh but I don't care. Every single day I was so grateful to him that I had this amazing, thriving, wonderful, fun business. And I have a real knowledge of what men deserve. So even though I never really lived with one because my parents were divorced when I was under 2, and I've never been married, but I know that men are born with a birthright of dignity and power and leadership. And I see the burden on men that's put on them that they don't get credit for. They're the ones who have to ask you out. They're the ones who have to, ask you to marry them. They're the ones that are supposed to be the breadwinners. They're the ones that, are supposed to be the strong one. And I thought, no one's giving these guys credit for all the stress that they're under. Not only that, now they open the door for someone and they don't know if they're going to get slapped or yelled at, and they're just being chivalrous. So I needed them to understand who they are. And I thought, I am going to show men who they are in my store, treat them the way they deserve to be treated, dress them in such a way that they can wear the finest, most elegant fabrics in the world and not be that 2% that can afford it, but put them in. And so my price is like 10 to 20% of retail, of $10,000 suits and, Tom Ford and Brioni and labels that I had no idea who Brunello Cucinelli, Laura Piana, the best of the best. And I've turned out I had a knack for dressing men and making them stunning. And I can look at someone, I've always been this way, and I see all the beauty that they don't even know is there. And so I get to bring it out in clothing them. And I'm not a computer person to this day. And men are wonderful. They're so loyal, and they remember me, and they remember where the store is. So I don't have to do like promotions, and I believe in word of mouth. So I don't have to pay for advertising. And I'm a wonderful hostess because my mother was, and my sister and I both, and my brother are both we're all gracious hostesses. So, because we're raised that way. So when you come to my store, it's like you're coming to my home to a dinner party, and that's how you're treated, and you're honored. And it just was such it fulfills me as much as acting, which I never thought anything in life would ever fulfill me that much. And I have 2 careers that are as fulfilling as each other. And now one of the gifts of COVID is that I'm open by appointment only, which is healthier, but also it means that I don't have to put a sign up saying back in 2 weeks I'm in London doing a Comic-Con. So, and men are like, when is she here? So now I'm open when you have an appointment, and I'm closed other than that.
That's so awesome.
So, like now I'm at my sister's just relaxing. It took me a long time to realize that it's Saturday and I can relax and it's okay. But I'm going home tonight. I have 3 appointments of shoppers tomorrow, and the next day I go to Las Vegas to be a part of the Barris Jackson auction on Saturday. And then I go home Sunday night, and I have filming on the 4th of July of a documentary I'm doing about my friend who's 100 and a dancer. And then Tuesday I have customers, and it's my birthday. And then Wednesday I go to London.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So it's like it's great. I mean, my availability is Tuesday and July 5th, and then I'm
That's
gone for a
great.
month.
Well, you had mentioned before with Back to the Future that it's really never gone away, that it's, all the fans there. I want to ask, what was it like? There were so many things there, like games. I have the board game here actually, and you did the video game voice. How surreal was that to go back and revisit the role after so many years?
Crazy, insane. It was like a dream come true because I got to be Jennifer, and it just like all came back to me immediately. And it was all cold readings because they don't really give you a script. And Jennifer's like, oh, she's like this tough girl, and she's like, it was like as Claudia, I've lived so much life since then. Well, apparently Jennifer had too, because she's like hardened and tough and dating someone else, and then well, of course Marty wins at the end, and they're like, could you do this but just raise your voice a little higher, because Jennifer's voice, because now I talk like this and Jennifer talks like Marty. So it was just super fun, and then I got to hang out with Chris because Christopher Lloyd was Doc Brown, and we're the only two cast members that are in it, and everyone else is brilliant voiceover actors.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought I was going to become a voiceover video game star after that. So anyone out there who does video games and voiceovers,
yes, please.
I mean, it's not like I tried, but I just figured the phone would ring off the hook.
Why not? Of course. Yeah, we all do. So have you seen the musical?
Okay, I'm going to see it July 13th.
Get out.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I'm going to see it with Goldie.
Oh, wow.
Name sometimes Dawn Full of Love. I call him Goldie, and Jeffrey Weissman, who played the dad in 2 and 3, and Frances McCain, who played Lorraine's mom in the 50s. We're all doing the London Comic-Con, and so is Christopher Lloyd. So they've got us coming on Wednesday night, and Bob Gale's going to be there to see the musical, and then the next weekend I'm going to be doing the Southampton Comic-Con. And then the next weekend, I'm going to be doing a Comic-Con type event in Granada, Spain. And then the next weekend, I'm going to be doing a charity event in Palma de Mallorca. And then the next day, I'm flying to go visit Monsieur in Canada. And I'm going to have a 22-hour layover in Munich to do a little sightseeing on my way. And then I'm going to see Monsieur for the first time in like 15 years. And he's got a 3-bedroom apartment. I get my own room, and and he's just great. So we used to do, like, when we'd go downtown to buy racks or something when we were doing the store, we put the store together in 9 days.
Wow.
We got it December 9th and December 11th, December 9th. And we opened on December 19th, 1991. And it was fully furnished, carpeted, painted, racks up, merchandise. And we used to go downtown and go, my darling, we do business and pleasure. And so we'd buy racks and then go have croissant and cafe. I'm going to see him. Anyway, that's the story of my life.
You need to do a show in Florida so we can go see you there.
Oh, I would love to. I've done shows in Florida.
I'll keep looking out.
Keep your eyes out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's how I travel the world. It's amazing. I'm going to be at the Malta Comic-Con at the end of October.
Wow.
And I'm going to be at Edinburgh Monopoly Events Comic-Con at the beginning of October. And then Manchester, a Monopoly Events Comic-Con at the beginning of December.
Grief.
Yeah, amazing. You mentioned
New Jersey, mid-August.
Well, you mentioned some people. Do you keep in touch with anyone else from the cast?
Leah Thompson. I adore her, and I so look up to her for so many reasons. And James Tolkien and we're like best buddies. I'm his wingman because he knows when we travel, I take care of him, and I kind of introduced him to these Comic-Cons and things. So he's
another one that we're going to reach out to have on. So.
Oh, done. I'll come.
Oh, great. That would be great.
Oh, it's so funny because on my calendar, when it's someone's birthday, it pops up. So his name popped up with his wife last week or a few days ago, last week. And I thought it was his wife Parmalee's birthday. So I called and I said, hi, Tolkien, it's me, it's your wingman, Claudia. But this message isn't for you, it's for Parmalee. And I sang happy birthday to her. Then I look on Facebook that afternoon and there's all this stuff about James Tolkien, happy birthday, he's turning 91. And I went,
Wow.
So then I called back the next day and I'm like, Jimmy, I meant happy belated birthday. He's called me back twice. I've missed his calls, but anyway, yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, he's great. He's been so many great things too.
Oh, and Jerry Waters Jr. and I are friends. They call me Mama Claudia because I'm kind of teaching him the ropes of this whole game.
I want to say you mentioned that all these families, and it's so true because I mean my kids adore the movie too. For the 30th anniversary, I took them. We went to see it. They had all three in one day, and I took my kids to see it. Now we're closing in on the 40th already. Do you hear of any special plans for that?
Whatever they want. I am a big, huge cheerleader for the entire franchise. And yes, sir. What do you want?
Well, that would be, of course, awesome. And Zemeckis and Gale have said that there won't be any sequels or reinventions, but should there be, would you be up for something like that?
Oh, yeah, all of us would be.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Which is so great to hear. I mean, so many people, it's like, no, they want to, no matter how popular it is, they want to, separate, divorce themselves from it. So it's just really lovely to hear that you're all so still gung-ho.
Absolutely. I mean, I've done so much television and so many great roles that I love doing. But the truth is, when I go to these shows, people, yeah, they might care a little bit about Herbie the Love Bug or Fast Times, but they care about, let me see Jennifer Parker from Back to the Future. Not Linda Barrett, not Julie, not Shannon, whatever other names I had. So yeah, no, that's an absolute honor and privilege and pure gratitude. So Back to the Future 4, we've got Back to the Future, the musical, Back to the Future, the game, Back to the Future, the Legos, Back to the Future figurines, Back to the Future, I don't even know what. So, sorry, send a voicemail. So there's a bunch of things that could be like, oh, want to hear something funny?
Of course.
Yes.
So I was at a screening of Back to the Future at this theater with Christopher Lloyd and Jeffrey Weissman many years ago. And we did a Q&A afterwards. And the guy who created the Marty and Doc broke Back to the Future video, do you remember that?
Yes.
He was in the audience. And Christopher Lloyd goes, okay, that was Back to the Future 4. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we'd also mentioned before you're so good with the fans, and I see you respond a lot. So how often do they reach out to you?
All the time, every day, every night, from all over the world. And I'm so grateful and honored and privileged at that opportunity. It's just like it's an extraordinary experience to have the ability to bring so much joy to someone so simply.
Mm-hmm.
It's really amazing. I love it. I love it. I mean, I give everything I am at every single appearance I do. I'm exhausted after because there is not 1 second I'm not giving my all to each and every person, because I mean, the effort they put into going and showing up at these places and paying to get in and paying for parking and taking time off work and flying in or driving 16 hours or, all of it, the love they have and the dedication, they have to be honored. And we wouldn't have these fabulous experiences without them. So anyone who doesn't put them at the top of the list, it makes no sense to me.
I have to agree with you completely. Yeah.
Well, Claudia, we were so looking forward to having you on, and thank you so much for doing this today. It was such a pleasure to get to talk to you. Such a treat, you know. Very excited, and you were great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yes. No, thank you for me as well. I was so terrible, very, very, very grateful. And especially when you're like lounging and on vacation, it seems like to take your time out. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And
Thank
welcome
you.
anytime.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. God bless you.
Thank you. This has been Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenmann. And again, a very special thanks to Claudia Wells. And please subscribe.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast.